In our previous video, we discussed how kleptocrats use fake names or proxies to hide their wealth. However, sometimes they don't even have to go through all that trouble. All they have to do is move their money to a safe haven country. These countries have loose regulatory systems in place to attract dirty money. Certain safe haven countries enforce strict banking secrecy laws that shield the identities of account holders and the details of their transactions, making it easier for kleptocrats to obscure the origin of their funds. Moreover, these countries offer low tax to zero tax rates, making them a tax haven for corrupt officials seeking a place to stash their cash. To start the process, corrupt officials register a business in one of these safe havens. This business is commonly referred to as an offshore company. In its simplest form, the corrupt official would then transfer his illicit funds to a bank account in the name of the company. For example, the Panama Papers revealed no less than 100 prime ministers, and heads of state hiding assets in offshore companies. If a corrupt official wants to ensure plausible deniability in their offshore scam, they may register the company in the name of a relative or subordinate, even an infant child. As we discussed in our last video, this is called beneficial ownership. Some of the most egregious examples of beneficial ownership came from the Open Lux project that found nearly 300 juveniles, including babies who owned significant stakes in Luxembourg companies. For high-profile politicians, a single offshore company is often insufficient to hide ownership from investigative reporters and anti-corruption activists, even when they are obscured by beneficial ownership. Consequently, high-profile politicians, who are a little more criminally savvy, create what are known as complex ownership structures. In a complex ownership structure, the corrupt official creates an offshore company, often using a surrogate owner, such as a trust or private foundation. This company, known as a shell company, exists only on paper and has no actual assets. The corrupt official then creates another shell company in another jurisdiction, naming the first company as its owner. They then go to another jurisdiction and create another shell company, naming the second company as the owner, and so on, thereby creating a complex layer of secrecy. For instance, a company in Belgrade could be owned by a company in Rotterdam, which in turn could be owned by a private foundation or a trust in Austria, with Russian oligarchs as its beneficial owners. There have been cases with over 20 layers of companies. Complex ownerships are one of the most common schemes used by high-profile corrupt officials. A World Bank study of more than 200 cases of grand corruption showed that secretive offshore companies were used in 70% of them. Additionally, kleptocrats sometimes use nominees to hide the real ownership of a company. A nominee shareholder or director is a third party who allows their name to be used in place of the real or beneficial owner of the company, especially in jurisdictions where the names of owners are part of a public record. When researching companies that use nominees, investigators look for nominees who have hundreds of companies recorded in their name. Furthermore, searches across multiple databases, including registries of companies and court litigation, may establish connections between these nominees and the beneficial owners they represent. Although offshore havens are usually associated with tropical islands somewhere in the Caribbean, in many instances, countries such as Austria, Switzerland, or the UK have offshore-like facilities enabling businesses and individuals to hide ownership. Offshore anonymity simplifies the concealment of illicit money. However, unveiling the names of the true owners and controllers of companies would significantly hinder these corruption schemes. Momentum is growing to address anonymous company ownership, with countries like the UK, Norway, the Netherlands, and Ukraine committing to establish public registries that disclose a company's real owners. With the world's people fighting back against corruption, progress is being made. This video is the second episode of Tracking Corruption series put together by UNISHKA Research Service to serve as an educational asset, while also highlighting the extensive efforts made by journalists and individuals who research corruption.